Not everyone who reaches the summit is ready to live with what remains afterward. Claudio Caniggia chose to withdraw. At 58 years old, he chose silence and moved away from the spotlights that had accompanied him for decades. But his name never disappeared. He remains connected with unstoppable speed, with blonde hair in the wind, and with the 1990 World Cup, where glory and shadows always coexisted. Why does a man withdraw who once electrified all of South America? To understand that, we must return to the path that led him to the top of world soccer.
Claudio Paul Caniggia was born in 1967 in Henderson, in the province of Buenos Aires. He grew up in a working-class family without economic security. His childhood took place on dusty pitches, in improvised games where technique was secondary, and only one thing made the difference: his speed. He ran faster than everyone else, so fast that at a young age he earned the nickname Son of the Wind. Without modern academies, without influential advisors, his entry into professional soccer relied exclusively on his own legs. In 1985, he got his first big chance at River Plate. In 3 seasons, he made 53 competitive appearances and scored 8 goals. It was enough to generate attention, but not enough to fundamentally change his economic reality. In 1980s Argentina, even professional soccer players earned only a few $1,000s a month. Caniggia lived without luxury, focused on competition and the hope of finding a door that would lead him out of the country. That door opened in 1988 with his move to Europe. But was Europe really the beginning of the security he was looking for, or merely the prelude to an even more intense phase of his career?
The move to Europe took place in 1988 with the transfer to Hellas Verona. It wasn't a spectacular transfer, but a cautious approach to European soccer. His stay there was short, but it proved to be decisive. Just 1 year later, he settled at Atalanta, the club where he would experience the most stable period of his career. Between 1989 and 1992, he played 85 matches in Serie A and scored 26 goals. In a league that at the time brought together the biggest names in world soccer, he held his own with his speed and directness. Atalanta reached the quarter-finals of the UEFA Cup in the 1990-91 season, a success that further solidified his standing. Parallel to this, his economic situation also changed noticeably for the first time. His annual salary during this phase is estimated at about $300,000 to $500,000. For the first time, soccer brought him not only recognition, but also a certain financial stability. He continued to live modestly, but the existential pressure of the early years began to fade. This phase marked his sporting peak at the club level. But while his career in Italy stabilized, an event was approaching in the background that would overshadow everything. A tournament that would make him immortal, but at the same time mark the beginning of an inner turning point. What happens when sporting success and worldwide attention reach their peak at the same time? And is every player prepared to handle that pressure?
The greatest moment of his career coincided with the 1990 World Cup in Italy. With 2 goals and reaching the final, Caniggia became the runner-up with Argentina and overnight became a defining figure of the tournament. His speed and decisive runs made him a symbol of that team. The fame was enormous, but it brought no lasting stability. International attention increased the pressure, while sporting consistency was lacking. What seemed like the beginning of a new stage became instead a turning point. Between 1992 and 1994, a move to AS Roma followed. This phase ended abruptly when Caniggia was suspended for 13 months in 1993 after a positive cocaine test. The sanctions stopped his career, caused income to plummet, and voided contracts. The rhythm was lost, and with it, part of the control over his own path. How does a player process such a disruption when the peak leads directly into a standstill? And after the fame, is there enough space to start anew?
After the suspension, Caniggia faced the most difficult phase of his career. In 1994-95, he moved to Benfica. It was not a step forward, but a cautious return to professional soccer. The time in Portugal was short, but it served to keep him from losing his competitive edge. In 1995, his return to Argentina to Boca Juniors followed. He played there until 1998 and once again stood on the field together with Diego Maradona. These years were shaped less by economic goals than by emotional significance. The proximity to the public, The return to a familiar environment and the interaction with Maradona once again gave weight to his career. His annual salary during this phase was about $400,000 to $500,000, supplemented by bonuses. But there was a lack of long-term planning. It was a period of balance, not rebuilding. Was this return a true new beginning, or merely an attempt to find footing once again after a deep disruption?
The final years of his career proceeded without a fixed direction. After a brief return to Atalanta, Caniggia moved to Scotland to join the Rangers. There, he won national titles and received one of the most lucrative contracts of his career. His annual salary could range between $500,000 and $800,000, and the transfer fee was around $1.1 million. His sporting conclusion followed at Qatar SC in the 2003-04 season, before he finally bid farewell to professional soccer. When adding up salaries, bonuses, transfers, and sponsorships, his total career earnings are estimated at about $4 to $6 million. Compared to today's soccer, this sum seems manageable, but it reflects his time and a career that was repeatedly interrupted. Caniggia earned well, but no long-term financial security was created. After ending his career, Claudio Caniggia did not build large businesses and did not invest extensively. His daily life shifted away from professional soccer into a quieter life. Income after his active time comes mainly from media appearances and his presence on social networks. As of early 2026, his net worth is estimated at about $3 to $5 million, a sum that allows for a comfortable life but does not represent permanent financial security. His career brought income, but no stable structure for the future. In the end, what remained above all was the desire for peace, a life with less speed, far from the noise of the stadiums, and without the pressure of being constantly visible.
The balance he seeks today, Claudio Caniggia found in a house in Argentina, not a place for show, but a space that organizes daily life and slows down the pace. Together with his partner Sofia Bonelli, he lives in a private neighborhood on a lagoon. The approximately 1,100 square meter property opens directly to the water. The lagoon is constantly present and shapes the atmosphere without being intrusive. The house has about 380 square meters of living space, as well as about 90 square meters of covered galleries. The architecture is modern, clear, and understated. Large glass surfaces connect the living and dining areas with the surroundings. Light determines the rhythm of the day. A gas fireplace, a functional kitchen, 4 bedrooms with en-suite bathrooms, and an outdoor area with a heated pool create a place that doesn't want to impress, but rather supports. This house replaces nothing. It provides space for peace. Is this place a retreat from the noise of the past, or exactly the balance that a life after soccer needs?
From 2010 to early 2026, Claudio Caniggia regularly engaged in social projects, mostly far from any attention. He did not see helping as self-promotion, but as a quiet responsibility. In about 10 initiatives, he directly donated about $1 million. The campaigns he supported mobilized an additional $8 million. The most important contribution occurred in 2021 during the pandemic, when he provided about $450,000 to the hospital in his hometown of Henderson for intensive care beds and medical equipment. The resulting campaign reached a total of about $2.5 million. In addition, he supported Club Atlético Juventud Unida de Henderson with about $150,000 and has financed free soccer clinics for disadvantaged children since 2011, primarily on the Costa del Sol, with about $200,000. Other aid included charity runs, support for fires in Malaga, and humanitarian actions in Tanzania. Benefit matches and jersey auctions brought in an additional $800,000. For Caniggia, helping remained quiet and constant, without expectation of recognition. It is precisely this restraint that shapes the value of his commitment.
Claudio Caniggia lives more consciously and quietly today. In early January 2026, he celebrated his birthday in the closest family circle, far from public attention. A brief moment that appeared on social networks without staging. Since 2019, he has shared his everyday life with Sofia Bonelli. It's balanced today. Professionally, he remains connected to soccer, but from a new perspective. He is working on a player agency for young talents, appearing more as a consultant than a public figure. His life now moves between memory, family, and a quieter role in the sport.
Thus, Claudio Caniggia closed the circle without much fanfare. From the rush of the stadiums, his path led to a quieter life where balance became more important than nostalgia and silence more valuable than attention. Today, he lives in peace with what was and with what is. If this story seemed honest and close to you, support us with a like and subscribe to the channel. In this way, you help us to continue telling stories with depth and respect. Thank you for watching.